Hello, I'm back. So, I have for you my interview video that I told you about last week. It is about pretty much everything and anything of JCMU with Mr. McCracken. Now, Mr. McCracken is the resident director of Japan Centers for Michigan University, situated in Hakone Shiga Prefecture, Japan. He has been doing this for a while, and he gave me some time to interview him. So I really hope you enjoy this and you get something out of it. And comment at the end. Let me know what you think. My first question is if you could kind of just tell us about yourself. Kind of tell us, schools you went to, experiences you had.
Okay. Well, I was a student at Northern Michigan University. I graduated from Northern in 2000. And while I was a student at Northern Michigan University, I came here to the Japan Center for Michigan Universities as a student, so a few years back now. After coming here and then after graduating from Northern, I came back to Japan to teach English in Kyushu. So I taught English here for about a year and a half. And then while I was here, decided I wanted to pursue going to law school. So I went to law school at the University of Detroit Mercy. So kind of a big difference going from the UP to Japan and then to Detroit. So I got to see everything, I guess, and in between. So I graduated from the University of Detroit Mercy in 2005 and I went to work for the Michigan Supreme Court, clerked for Justice Marilyn Kelly for a year. Then I went into private practice where I worked for the law firm Jaffe Raitt Here and Weiss in Southfield, Michigan, and did international litigation, primarily focused on Japanese related business. For almost 6 years, and then came here to be the resident director at the Japan Center for Michigan Universities in 2012.
Wow. Okay, so 3-year anniversary essentially coming up?
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. Now, why did you want to become the director of JCMU?
That's a very good question. Actually, I've always felt that my experiences here allowed me to become the person that I am. I wouldn't have been able to do the things I did in my legal career and in my life had I not come here on study abroad. So I've always felt a need to, in many ways, give back to JCMU. One way I did that before becoming the director here was to work as part of the Alumni Association. So I did that, and which kind of brought me back into connection with JCMU. It's always been there in my mind, but I didn't have the chance to maybe come back as much as I would have liked. But being part of the Alumni Association was very beneficial in that way. When JCMU was going through a transition in end of 2011, beginning of 2012, I got a call asking me if I would be interested in coming back to Japan, and if I would apply for the position. I said sure, I would. And at that time, I only thought actually I was going to be the interim resident director. I thought someone else would come after. So I was really just going to take a little time off from practicing law. But after getting back here and realizing again how much I cared about the center, how much I cared about Japan, the people here, and how great of a place it is to be, I really pushed and decided to stay once my 9 months were up. So I haven't really looked back. I really enjoy interacting with students. I like the idea that I can help people have the experiences I had, and hopefully they will feel the same way about me. Feel the same way that I felt, rather, that their study abroad experience changed their lives and for the better, and that they will want to give back in some way and help the international community.
That's actually pretty cool. When you here at JCMU as a student, right before you did student teaching and everything, what programs exactly did you do when you came over?
Okay. When I first came to JCMU, I came on the intensive Japanese language program. So I studied 10 credits of Japanese, plus I think it was 4 credits of an elective course. It's kind of ironic because I teach the elective course I took here now. So it's very, very interesting in that way. I don't know what Northern offers now, but when I was a student at Northern, they did not. There were no Japanese language classes. The closest thing I think we had at the time was Japanese literature, and I took that course, and I really loved it. In fact, some of the books that I studied in the Japanese literature course at Northern, I now use in my courses here, because they're just that interesting, and they, having come here after reading them, I thought they were very helpful in understanding, not just understanding life in Japan a bit, and understanding how Japanese people might think. So I really enjoyed that. I also did a little bit of studying at Michigan State University before I came here. I studied some Japanese there. But primarily, almost all of my Japanese was done here in Japan.
Oh, very cool. The one question that is kind of interesting that even I would like answered is the application processes. From when you did it to now, what was it like back then when you applied to JCMU?
When I applied to JCMU, well, I guess I should start by saying this. I was an RA in Van Antwerp Hall, my second year at Northern. And I decided while I was an RA that I needed to go abroad. And I'd been watching the Travel Channel and stuff. And I had kind of an idea maybe what I wanted to do. But I went up, at that time it was called, I think, International Affairs. I'm not sure what it's called now. But I went to the office, and at that time John Wedding was there, and so was Susan, was there as well. And I talked with them just in general about what was available, what sort of things could I do. And I think the two countries that came out of that discussion were Vietnam and Japan. And at the time, I don't know, maybe now looking at the economic expansion of Vietnam, it would have been a good place to go. But Japan looked really, really good. And in fact, one of the biggest features for me was that it's the Japan Center for Michigan Universities. Yeah. And so Northern's a member of that consortium, and so the credits would transfer very easily and all these other things. The application process happened from what I understand, it was a paper. Of course, at that time, everything was basically a paper application. The JCMU representative would come to Northern. I think he came about twice a year. When he came the first time, I filled it out with his help, and then basically submitted it directly to JCMU via paper, mailed everything in. Now everything is online. It's much easier. In fact, I remember having to go out and getting all the recommendation letters and things like that, and I know there's still some of that involved, but definitely the online application process now is much easier, less and cheaper too. You have to pay for the postage.
I know Crossroads was a new program that was starting this year with Dr. Atkins. Is there any other programs like that are probably going to be starting JCMU in the future that maybe you can discuss to kind of get kids that be excited to see if these programs they could do?
Sure. The Crossroads of Japan program is a faculty-led program, and every year those can change depending on what faculty apply to have their programs come here. And so it's difficult to say which one of those programs, say next year, might be offered. But we usually have something very similar to that, or where those programs, short course programs, are designed to give people a good introduction to Japan in a focused area. So this time it was Shiga history, and how it relates to overall Japanese history. So I think very fascinating course. We have a couple what we call career culture hybrid programs. Okay. Those happen every year starting in May and I believe the first or second week of June usually. For those we have healthcare in Japan, so you get to see healthcare from the Japanese perspective. We have environmental science in Japan, where students come and they work with environmental scientists at the University of Shiga Prefecture, which is one of our partner universities. Okay. And then this year we also launched what's called Teaching English in Japan. A lot of people who get caught with or bit with the Japan bug and want to come back as English teachers. I did it, and a lot of people do that. So we looked at the needs of our students and saying, well, geez, all these people are coming back to Japan to teach English. So how can we as JCMU as part of help with them in that process? So the Teaching English in Japan program is designed to give our students an advantage, if you will, over students from applying from all over the country after they graduate.
Oh.
So focused on how to teach Japanese people, which we think will work out very well. And our regular programs essentially are the intensive Japanese program.
Mm-hmm.
So we have intensive Japanese language only program, say in the summertime. That'll start in June and go through the beginning of August.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 credits of Japanese over the course of about 2 months.
Wow.
So it's pretty tough. That's basically what I did over 4 months to cram down into 2 months.
Yep.
So it's really it's a difficult program, but you can get a lot out of it if you put in the work. We also then, of course, during the academic year, our academic year program is 10 credits of Japanese plus an elective, 3 or 4 credits. And then that's exactly what I took. The program that I took, of course, the textbooks were all different back then. There's newer textbooks now. There's new methods of teaching Japanese. But it's definitely after a year, usually if students come on the whole academic year, students can come for a semester only if they want. But I've seen students come with 0 Japanese and leave making phenomenal presentations all in Japanese.
Nice.
So you can do a whole lot in that 8-month period.
Is there anything that if you were given total control of JCMU that you would want to change or help to make better?
Oh my, what would I change about JCMU? Well, one thing that I'll combine something that I wanted to mention that I didn't mention before, but one thing that I'd like to, and we are in the process of working on at JCMU, is increasing the number of Japanese students who live in the dormitory with students from the United States. So we're in the process of making it easier for Japanese students interested in English language to come and live in the dorm. We do programs throughout the year called in-country study abroad programs. So Japanese university students, it's hard to explain, but Japanese universities are on a very different schedule than American universities. So during their vacation times, they can come and study in intensive programs and move into our dorms with American students. That's one area where I've really been pushing for expansion. I think there's a lot of Japanese language programs in Japan. And even at universities, usually it sounds weird to say, but foreign students, you're a foreign student here, right?
Yeah.
Foreign students are usually put in their own dormitory. They don't live with the Japanese students in the dormitories together. So I think we're, in a way, very uniquely situated to really bring people together. And that's one of our missions, and that's a mission that I feel very strongly about. So increasing the number of programs that allow students from the United States and also students in Japan to interact more. That's an area where I'm all for moving forward on.
Yeah, that would be fun. I was actually kind of hoping I would actually have a Japanese roommate. That way I could have talked with them.
Yeah.
So does that mean that if ever you combine both of them to the point that it becomes, very culturally immersed in the dormitories, do you think there's enough rooms that would accommodate all the U.S. there
sure.
as well with all the Japanese? Okay.
Sure, yeah. A lot of, during the academic year in particular, we also have an option for homestays. So that's another area, to be honest, it's funny, when I was a student, many people wanted homestays. They wanted out into the public and, out into whatever real Japan is. And those numbers have died down a bit. Students don't seem to be as interested in doing homestays, which I think is a real shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did one. I'm still friends with my host family, so it's and that's another experience that I think more students should have. And if we had numbers, right now the JCMU dormitory can hold about 50 students.
Okay.
Sometimes if we use faculty rooms and things like that, we can increase the number up to about 55 or 56.
Okay.
So that's quite a few students. I think if we're right about there, I think life is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but if we needed more room, it'd be great to get more students out into homestays, I think they should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
So
On a final note, to anybody out there looking to JCMU, looking to come here and study, whether it be summer, winter, fall, and whatever program they choose, is there anything you would like to say to those applicants to try and help them decide whether or not they should come to JCMU to study abroad?
Well, I'll say this: even if you don't come here, you should do it. I think to steal a phrase from Nike, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of what sort of experiences you're worried about, maybe having bad experiences or things like that. I think everyone that's come here has always left feeling like, wow, that was well worth it. I think these days students' money is very precious, and time is very precious as well. And so a lot of students are looking for the value for their money. Mm-hmm. And especially with the student loan crunch and all of these other things and having to pay back loans. I would say that my experiences here have only helped me in my life in finding work. Mm-hmm. and being sought after by employers. I think employers look at study abroad and give you added value for that. And one of the reasons why is because in order to be abroad, you have to be a person who can think on their feet. Mm-hmm. You have to deal with situations that are changing around you and learn to overcome obstacles and things like that. If people are interested in JCMU, I'm happy about that. If they're interested in going to another country, I'm happy about that too. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I loved Marquette. I like to go back and visit Marquette. But it's 4 years. Get out of there every once in a while. It'll still be there when you go back.
Yep.
It's definitely been for me a very life-changing experience. Obviously, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be sitting here now talking with you about it, right?
Yeah.
But I think those are the big things. Don't be afraid to come, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to challenge, especially a language like Japanese. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of the 4 hardest languages for native English speakers to learn. Mm-hmm. But it does give you a great sense of accomplishment when you do it. When you use it, people understand, wow, I had that moment of, I said a word, and that person understood it, and they talked back to me, and I understood it too. It's a huge sense of accomplishment. Yeah. And, that's not something it is something I guess you can experience in the U.S., but doing it on a daily basis here can really build your confidence, really make for an experience that you'll never forget.